It is a few days before the Heroes Days, and it is also a few days before the 2023 general elections. Hello and welcome. My name is Robert Tafumani. Thank you very much for following us. Thank you very much for subscribing to our YouTube channel. Continue to invite and also tell friends about the news and current affairs that we give you. Some of them it is entertaining and informative. And remember also, if you can't find us here, you can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and also on LinkedIn. And as I've said that it is few days before two historical events, we have invited a top politician within the country to come and share with us some of his views. Senator Morgan Komichi, the leader of the opposition party Movement for Democratic Change.
Yes.
Is it the acting president?
I'm the acting president until National Congress, which we are preparing. We hope to have the Congress as soon as possible.
But will it happen?
It will definitely happen.
Because we have seen events that leads to the splitting of
this time around. It's we are going through the process of integration of those splinters, so that we will hold a major Congress, which will elect a new leader who is going to replace the late Morgan Tsvangirai.
And before we talk about the national heroes, let's talk about the current affairs within the opposition, particularly the brand MDCT led by Senator Douglas Togarase Mwonzora. We saw a few days ago he announced that he's pulling out of the race, the presidential race. What is your view on that?
Actually, what happened a few days ago when Douglas Mwonzora withdrew from the presidential race, it was a public admission that he had failed. He has come to a realization that he's not a leader, and he cannot lead the opposition political party, and he cannot lead MDC. So it was a public admission. He did it tactically, and accused ZEC and the courts of Zimbabwe that they were not fair to him. It was just a tactic. In actual fact, he knew he was not going to perform if he had really remained on the ballot paper. He knew he could have been actually the last voted person. Douglas Mwonzora is on record through the research that was done that is the most unpopular politician in Zimbabwe. He knows about that, and he did not want to embarrass himself. So as a way of saving his face, he withdrew from the race. But this is the end of Douglas Mwonzora's political career. He did a good job for the ruling party. He actually destroyed the opposition movement in Zimbabwe, and he almost buried the once great party, MDC, and he was used by the system, in my view. He did not realize that it was actually a project. He did not realize that. And the ZANU-PF is celebrating right now because ZANU-PF has managed to destroy the opposition in Zimbabwe. However, MDC will not die, as I've already said. MDC will be revived. MDC will be reorganized. MDC is going to be a great party again. This is possible in my lifetime.
But you said he realized it when he lost the delimitation case, and he realized that because, according to you, he did not want to be on the ballot paper. But why then would he pay 20,000? You know,
actually it was a part of a strategy, so that it would not be obvious. I personally commented immediately after he lost the ZEC case, the boundaries case. I commented to my friends that Mwonzora will not be on the ballot paper. Mwonzora is not going to be one of those candidates. I actually mentioned those particular days, and I realized it was part of his long-term strategy to do what he did a few days ago. It was a well-planned thing. There were no 87 members of parliament. That was it was just part of the plan as well, the grand plan as well. And there was no $87,000 anyway in the MDC coffers for him to pay those particular monies. And we have an example of Elizabeth Valerio, president of USA. She won a case after Zeki delayed to accept her on the ballot paper, because she had evidence that she had already paid some money. How then would the court be so selective that they would allow Elizabeth to be on the ballot paper and disallow Mwonzora and these 87 MPs not to be on the ballot papers if he had really had some money with him? There was no money at all. It was just a lie.
But as politicians, how do you measure your popularity? Because we saw Mwonzora saying he's going to win the elections.
You measure your popularity by going to the people. If the people that attend your rallies, then you can be able to tell whether people really like you. At the moment, you have two main political parties in Zimbabwe, which is the Triple C and the ZANU-PF political parties. We are looking at their rallies. They are being attended by multitudes of people. So those guys can actually say they are popular, and evidence is there. But if you really come to a point where you cannot even address 50 people at a particular rally, how can you say you are popular? You'll be trying to work on popularity. You'll be trying to convince people that one day you will also become a great leader when people eventually follow you. But at the moment, the two political parties that are big in Zimbabwe are ZANU-PF and Triple C.
But is it, as politicians, you are not good with numbers? When you see hundreds people, you see 1,000 or 10,000. Because I remember at one point when MDC Alliance had a star rally at the Zimbabwe grounds, at one point you actually gave the audience quite a figure which shocked even everyone that was there looking at the number of people that
it's allowed in politics. It's allowed in politics. There's never been a party today which has addressed more than 100,000 people. The best that the ZANU-PF could have done is around 40 to 50,000. But when you read on the social media, you hear 250,000. It's not possible. And the same applies with Triple C. But at least by visual inspection, you can see that there are quite a number of people that are there.
But looking at MDC now, and the number of people that were sitting on the high table on the day that Senator Mwonzora announced that he was pulling out, do those people still believe in MDC as an opposition? What's going on in their mind? You have sat on the same table with those learned, mature gentlemen. Do they still believe in that? What's going on with those minds of those people?
Those big men and women that you saw seated around Douglas Mwonzora don't believe in him.
Okay.
They are planning something.
All right.
They are planning something. They don't believe in him. They've lost confidence in him. They are just there because they want to save the party. So really, they are not stupid. They don't believe him. There's no one at the moment among MDC people who still believes in Douglas Mwonzora as the president of the MDC. No. If he was really, if he could be, he could just respect himself, the honorable thing is for him to announce the resignation or to part away with Harvest House and let the proper leadership take over Harvest House and be able to rebuild the opposition political party.
In your own opinion, are there any chances that he may join ZANU-PF publicly?
You can't rule that one out. I was shocked when I witnessed the so-called 10 MDC former members of parliament joining ZANU-PF and many other MDC people that have already joined ZANU-PF. So anything can happen. Anything can happen, really. You can't rule that out.
Okay. Coming to the Heroes Day that is coming in a few days, Senate, do you think the people that went to war today are happy?
Thank you so much for putting across that important question, which forms part of our history as Zimbabweans. I would like to start by appreciating and thanking all liberators, the freedom fighters, the Sanla forces and the Zebra forces, and all the people that went to war in Zambia and in Mozambique and the many other parts of the world to go and train and fight, sacrifice their lives, their time, their youthful time, and many people died for the liberation of this country. I want to thank them. I want to thank them very much. And we are here today I'm here today talking to you about Zimbabwe because of them. I want to appreciate that. And the war that they fought against Ian Douglas Smith was a horrible war, very difficult war. And many young people died during the times of the war. We remember the Chimoyo bombings, the Nyazonya bombings, the Tembe bombings, and various parts of, in the other wars in various parts of the country. And I wanted to really honor this moment. And I would like to take this opportunity to have a minute of silence in honor of the gallant fighters. Could you please join me in the minute of silence? Okay, thank you so much. Those young women and men had a mission. The mission was to free Zimbabwe from the colonial bondage, to overthrow the colonial rulership in Zimbabwe, which was at that time led by Ian Douglas Smith, supported by the British, Americans, European Union, Australia, Israel, IMF and World Bank. It was part of the imperialist empire which resisted our independence as blacks. But these young men and women with very limited resources, walking on foot from here, Zimbabwe, to Mozambique and Zambia, sometimes during rainfall period, coming across elephants, lions, snakes, and many other dangerous animals, waged a war of liberation. And they defeated the imperialist empire. They defeated the imperialist empire. Yes, of course, they were not fighting for nothing. They were trying to establish self-rule, blacks by blacks, so that the lives of the Zimbabwean people would become affordable and admirable and would be improved. They fought for the creation of jobs for the young people. They fought for affordable education and affordable health systems. They fought for good roads in Zimbabwe. They fought for freedom in Zimbabwe. They fought for good governance in Zimbabwe. They fought for democracy in Zimbabwe. They fought for the land in Zimbabwe. And they really believed that they would live a better life in Zimbabwe. They believed it. I remember when they were in the bush, I was a young boy, so I was attending the Pungwes, and the comrades were imagining the Zimbabwe that would look like Switzerland, a Zimbabwe that would be flowing with gold and milk, a Zimbabwe where they would have houses in Borodale. They would talk about that. But some of them were achieved. I want to admit that the land is finally in the hands of the black person. Most black people now own farms. I want to admit on that particular one. It's one of the key objectives. Contrary to the other objectives, that has not been achieved. One of the key objectives which they're also fighting for was the 1 man, 1 vote, which is the electoral democracy. But to this day, we have never witnessed an undisputed election outcome. Opposition political parties don't feel free in Zimbabwe to operate. And opposition political parties don't have the confidence that there will ever be any power transfer, even if they win. On record, we have Tsvangirai who won almost all of the elections that he went through. He went against Robert Mugabe. A living example is the 2008 elections. 2008 elections in which Mugabe lost the elections completely. Instead of implementing the power transfer, there was serious violence, which was then executed. A runoff was forced on us, and many people were killed, were beaten, and so many things happened, to the point that Tsvangirai and MDC withdrew from the contest. This is not what the Zanla forces, Zipra forces were fighting for. They were telling us that we want one man, one vote. They were telling us that we want to have full democracy in Zimbabwe. That has not yet been achieved.
Why?
We go for elections, yes, but let's see what will happen on the 23rd of August. But all the previous elections have failed to meet the standard required.
Yeah, but the same people that you mentioned earlier, that the Zana forces wanted a one man, one vote. These are the people, some of them with their leadership, who are running the country right now. The people that believed in that one man, one vote. And we've said that the opposition from 2000, we've had disputed elections. So what went wrong with the people that went to war? Because some of them are now in the opposition, some are now in the ruling party. So what's wrong? Because if we talk about opposition and ruling party, it seems like we are talking about two different nationalities. But you are talking about the Zanla people that went to war. Some are in the opposition, some are in the ruling party. Why is it that we can't have an election that is not disputed when people particularly went to war to achieve that?
The things that we all expect to happen in a democracy are very difficult to achieve in the case of Zimbabwe.
Why? That's where my question is. Why can't we?
The election processes in these countries are virtually run by the ruling party. The ruling party has got so much control in the processes and institutions of the elections. For an example, in your own mind, would you think ZEC would be able to announce the winner of these elections who is not ZANU-PF? Do you think that will happen in Zimbabwe?
We are still coming back to my question, Senator, that people went to war for one man, one vote. And an election is a process where that one man, one vote is practiced. Why can't another Zimbabwean hand over power to a Zimbabwean who have won an election? These same Zanna people that are ruling now.
They don't believe in it.
So why?
They don't believe that the opposition should ever rule this country.
But the opposition are Zimbabweans.
Yes, of course.
The Zimbabweans who went to war as well.
This is what you need to deal with. This is what we need to make sure that the mindset is changed. This is what when we talk about electoral reforms, this is exactly what we'll be trying to talk about. Is to change the mindset of the people that went for the war of liberation, that any Zimbabwean can lead this country. There is no way a Zimbabwean can take over power and hand over the power to the imperialists. It's not possible. And it will never happen. It's propaganda. So it's official propaganda. So what we call upon the freedom fighters is that they must accept, if the people choose Robert today to be their president, they must hand over power to that particular person, because that will be the choice of the people. But they don't believe in it. Actually, there is a former liberation war forum, part forum, which do believe that they will never hand over power to any opposition. The likes
yes,
of
that's why is it like that? That's why my question is, why is it like that?
They've convinced themselves, and they believe that if they hand over power to an opposition, they will have handed over power to the British system or to the imperialist system. Which is not true.
Which is not true.
Which is not true, but they believe in it so.
Do you think they believe, Senate, Do you honestly think they believe that
They
if
use
Komichi is going to win the election, he's going to hand over power to the British?
They use it as a scapegoat as well.
Yes,
They use it as a scapegoat so that they remain in power.
Why do they want to remain in power?
They want to rule the country forever. Remember, they've said Chatonga Zimbabwe kusika madongi amiranyanga. Remember, they've said they will not hand over power to a civilian through a ballpoint. They've already said that. And this is the electoral reform that we've been calling for. They must believe that any Zimbabwean can lead this country.
They do believe. They do believe that any Zimbabwe can lead this country. They do believe that if Komichi wins election today, he will not hand over power to the British. Obviously, the British will not say, we are coming and take over. There is a reason, Senator, that you as politicians do not want to nail on the head. You know the reason. You talk to these people. Some of them are in parliament with you. You sit close to them. You drink tea with them. You went to workshops with them. There's a reason why they don't want to hand over power.
It's power and access to the resources of the country. So if they hand over power to Robert today, they'll have lost power and they'll have also lost access to the resources of the country. But truly speaking, there's no way. There's no way Komichi would hand over power to America or to Britain or to France. It will not happen. That they should accept that. Therefore, the elections will not have any meaning if they don't accept that. Because we will be going for elections knowing very well that no matter what we do as opposition, the outcome is fixed. And we cannot continue to have that kind of situation. We must come to a point after 43 years of being run by ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF must be ready to hand over power if they lose elections. If they lose elections on the 23rd of March, they must hand over power to whoever will have been declared the winner. We can't continue to be in this situation. We need change. We need somebody who can change the economy of this country, who can bring happiness to the people of Zimbabwe, who can bring smiles to the young people of Zimbabwe. At the moment in Zimbabwe, people are not happy. We do have 49% of our people living in abject poverty. You don't see smiles on the young people. We've got beautiful young girls and some young boys. But if you look at their faces, they are depressed because there's no future anymore in Zimbabwe. So ZANU-PF, they've ruled for 43 years. Thank you. We should thank them for that. But they must be prepared to hand over power to anyone who is voted by the people from 23rd of August. Because we cannot continue to know even voter. Yet we fought for one man, one vote. We fought for democracy. We are no longer competing blacks against whites here. We are competing blacks among blacks. We must accept each other. There must be this mindset. The mindset must be established in the entire system here, the governance of Zimbabwe, to make sure that when you go for elections, it must be meaningful. Let the opposition lose fairly. Let the opposition win fairly. And there must be mechanism of power transfer. Not to tell us, Chiromka winner say, Chiromka voter say, will not give you power. So why are we wasting time going for elections? Why do we waste money going for elections if the outcome is fixed? Why don't you declare one party state and forget about it?
As we honor the fighters that liberated this country and those that are still in power, and you're talking about access to resources, chavasina chi izvinezvi chavangati handisati ndaguta, I still want to have this.
The problem with the system in a succession, generation to generation, come into power. If you look at the 2000 ZANU-PF and the 23 ZANU-PF, if you look, they've completely changed. I think more than 80% of the ZANU-PF today are new people, and probably the old generation is about 10 to 20%. So these new people would also want to start to have power and also start to have access to the natural resources, have access to everything that is benefited out of the system. So it will never end. It will never end. Look, let me give you an example of Tanzania. 1960, Tanzania got independent. But up to today, Chama cha Mapinduzi is still ruling. So it will never change. So we need to deal with the electoral reforms. The reforms, but not just on paper, but in the minds of those people that are in power. That they are safe under any leader. They are safe under any popular person. There will be no one who would threaten their future their resources or their whatever they have. No one will threaten them. They will be accepted to live as Zimbabweans. We still thank them as the war veterans. We still appreciate the work that they did, because the war that was fought for the liberation of this country is something that no one can betray. We are here to honor them, to thank them for whatever they did. But they must come to a point where they should appreciate that if the people have chosen Komichi to lead them, let Komichi lead.
So do you think the young men and women that were at the forefront during the War of Liberation today who are old, do you think they've been rewarded enough?
No, they've not been rewarded, because the economy of this country is not improving. The economy of this country is declining. The opportunities that we dreamed about when they went the bush are not there. Their kids today, they are not employed. Hospitals today, if no medicine. Education quality in Zimbabwe, it's actually going down. If you look at our service delivery in the councils, things are very bad. We used to have one of the best cities in Africa, Salisbury, turned into Harare. But today it's one of the dirtiest cities in Africa. We don't have adequate water in the country. We don't have adequate electricity in the country. We don't have that. We don't have adequate transport systems in the country. And all these things, those were aspirations which these boys and girls were fighting for. They were looking at a Switzerland of Africa, Zimbabwe. They're looking at great Zimbabwe that would benefit everyone. But things are not improving. Look at the unemployment in Zimbabwe. Look at the unemployment. It's around 80-something% unemployment. This is not what they were fighting for. Look at the young people that are in the streets who are not employed. This is not what they were fighting for. They were fighting for almost 90 to 95 employment in the country, but that's not taking place, which therefore means that major objective of the liberation struggle was not met, and it's still difficult to meet. And this is why people have said, kana takupa simba rokutungamira as our president, kana wakonewa regera tukubvise pa next election. But in a such situation, ahabi chirakakonewa mtungamira nenga aripo, because of the infrastructure, governance in the electoral systems which is not democratic. So we need to make sure that we deal with that mindset, because we are here for the people of Zimbabwe. We are not here for individual people or small groups of people. We are here to make sure that the young generation have a predictable future. Generation iri kurarama zvakanaka. Generation vari kuwana mabasa after schools. But generation this is what we are here for. And we are not here for one particular group of people to enjoy. The systems that we are using in the moment right now is very selective and exclusive in terms of taking care of the lives of the people of Zimbabwe. So this is not what the Zanlan and Zipra people fought for. Right now, if you look at the civil servant salaries right now, from the soldiers themselves, the people that went, some of them that went to war, the policemen and policewomen, if you look at the salaries that they are earning, it's so pathetic. The country has lost, the currency of the country has lost value. Just yesterday, the non-taxable band moved from 91,000 to 500,000. Those figures are, you should be ashamed to pronounce those figures. And the maximum taxable, whatever benefit, the band is 15 million. That is not acceptable. It shows economy is going down. And this is very difficult. People have failed to then establish a very strong economy for the people of Zimbabwe. So these are the shortcomings that we are saying. This is not what we fought for. We fought for a strong dollar. We fought for available and affordable food commodities and food items in shops. But these things are not there. Things are very expensive. Salaries are very, meager salaries. And that is not what we fought for. People fought for good living.
Let's talk about the hero status. In Zimbabwe, you have national hero, provincial hero, liberation war hero, going down. Probably, if you continue to cascade, you might end up having a zero hero. Why do we classify them? Why do we say this one is a national, this one is a provincial, this one is, instead of having just heroes in Zimbabwe? In your own opinion, Senator, and as a politician as well, why do we classify people that have done so much for this country?
Yeah, yes, of course. The classification is probably taken considering also the contribution that one person did. It's a difficult process really to classify whether one should be provincial, one should be a national hero. The criteria, I'm not sure, I'm not privy to the criteria that they use, but I wanted to comment on the honor of giving someone the heroship in terms of what he did towards the liberation of this country. And that should be done, in my view. I think that is an appreciation of what the women, the young men and women died for, and their contribution toward the liberation of this country. But that has been diluted a bit now. There are some heroes who are probably now regarded as heroes according to the other contributions that's got nothing to do with the liberation. We have so many people now who are coming as heroes because of their contributions in between 1980 to now, which is exclusive of the liberation war. Again, it's a moral issue, really. It's a moral issue in my view. I don't know whether Comrade Tomana really went for the war. His age does not allow, in my view, but he's been declared a national hero. Then Bishop Guti as well, he's been declared a hero because of his contribution towards the Christian religion. That is, with me, I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem. It's an appreciation of what someone has contributed towards the well-being of this country. But when you go back to the heroes, those people were also clustered they were in hierarchy. They had a hierarchy. They were commanders. They were other junior commanders and so forth. So, and also one thing that we need to look at also is the space that you would probably have to consider as well. Would all former ZANU and Zipora forces fit the national hero? It would be very difficult as well. So the creation of the provincial heroes eka is but as long as it's a hero status, to me, I don't have any problem.
So, but looking at the current state of affairs, do you think you can have someone from the opposition becoming a national hero despite their contribution before and even after independence, but at the end of, starting 2000, joining
in Zimbabwe, the moment you declare yourself as an opposition leader, you become a targeted figure. And you are monitored, you are arrested, sometimes you meet with fate. You would not be accepted, appreciated. It will be regarded as a negative contribution. Yet, opposition leaders are fulfilling the requirements of the national constitution, because opposition politics in the national constitution is enshrined. And the opposition also fulfill the requirements of electoral democracy. For a person to be elected as a president, they must be contested. And it should be contested by the opposition elite political parties. But however, you become usually an enemy in Zimbabwe. You can be arrested.
But why so?
You can be tortured. This is a lack of appreciation of things that are so basic, in my view.
Yeah, yes.
Because the fact that we've got a national constitution which clearly prescribes what should be done during election. We need to have an opposition and the ruling party, and they must contest each other for one to win. But people, most leadership in the ruling party, they don't appreciate that. They don't accept that. Instead of appreciating and welcoming you and celebrating that you are implementing the constitution, you become an enemy.
Senator, you have interacted as politicians at your level in parliament and in the Senate. When you're not debating other issues, when you're sitting like this, probably having tea, having a beer, what is it that you talk about when it comes to Zimbabwe, with the way that, the message that at the end of the day we hear politicians talking about, which is someone becoming an enemy, someone is not a Zimbabwean, someone is a sellout. But when you're in parliament, what is it that you talk about? Your conscience to your colleague, as Zimbabweans, I know you differ on how to take Zimbabwe forward, but why is it one sees the other as an enemy?
You can talk about anything, any other thing. There's no problem. The only problem comes when the power of the presidency is under threat. Whenever you are doing something that will threaten the position of the president, of the ruling party, you become an enemy. But if you talk about any other thing, bills, whatever you discuss in parliament, there's no problem. The only challenge comes when the power of the incumbent, like in this case, the ZANU-PF president's power as the state president, is under threat. All things change. You get all sorts of names. They don't appreciate that any other Zimbabwean can still lead this country. No, there's no any Zimbabwean who can hand over power to the white people. Time is over. We are all blacks here. All our interest is to contribute towards the post-development of this country. Is to make sure that the economy of this country improves. Make sure that democracy in this country improves. The lives of our people must improve. That's the reason why any person could stand up as an opposition leader. There's no one who wants to then take this country back to the British systems. No one at all. So we appreciate, we appeal to the people in power today, not to use it as a scapegoat so that you can refuse to transfer power. No, don't do that. So there'll be no reason for us to go for these elections if we know the outcome is fixed.
So why is it when, as you've said, the outcome is fixed, why then do we go for elections? We
have to continue fighting. We have to continue hoping that one day things will change. Because even if you go back to the time of the liberation took almost a period of 16 years. Probably if the fighters had said after 1 year, they were not going to achieve the independence that we got. But there was a protracted war that was fought for over a period of 16 years. Finally, things changed. So we still hope that one day things will improve. We still hope that one day the power transfer will be executed. And we still hope that one day ZANU-PF will be out of power. They've done their part, they must rest. They must done their part, and we thank them, they must rest. They must let the opposition leader take over the power if he or she is elected by the people of Zimbabwe. We don't need any disputed elections anymore. Out of these disputed elections, the economy of this country continues to decline. And the victims of our disputed elections are the general public. At the moment, the things that we know will come out of the 23 elections are 2 jobs. 1 job for member of parliament, 1 job for the councillor. The voters that will have voted on that particular day would continue to languish in abject poverty because there will be nothing that will make our economy improve. Nothing. If the economy can't improve today, what will happen after 23 August? That will make the economy improve. Nothing. So the women and men that will have get employment are the councillors and MPs. The economy will not improve. And our general public will have voted, but would continue to live in abject poverty. So we need to come out with mechanisms that will ensure that after an election, the economy would improve. I've always talked about it. I want to repeat right now. After the 23 August elections, whoever is declared the winner by ZEC, or if you go to court by the Concord, should form a government of national unity. We know very well that a government of national unity has produced results in Zimbabwe. We've got living examples of 1980 after the Liberation War with the GNU. We had also in 1987 Intercourt with the GNU. 2008, which is known by many young people today, with the GNU. On those 3 instances, our economy grew and people's lives improved. Outside those 3 incidences, our economy has continued to decline. So we should come to a realization when we say, elections, yes, do them. Get your the parliamentary representatives, the council representatives, and the president. But immediately after an election, we must have actually a constitutional clause which would force whoever wins to form a governmental unit. This has happened in Europe. There's now what is called multi-party coalition systems in Europe. Because they've realized that To continue fighting over elections, you lose the focus on improving the economy. You continue fighting over power. So if Europe has changed to those governing system, why can't we also, as Africans, follow suit? And multi-party coalition systems are actually Afrocentric in nature. Working together as communities is what Africans have been doing for the past years.
If
we need to make sure that we bring those Afrocentric systems that we used to use to Dara. Things like Kushanda Panimbe, cooperatives, working together. Let's apply those systems in the governance of our country. After an election, whoever is declared should invite others who participate in this election and form an inclusive government. Because this goes along with our culture. This goes along with our identity and our originality as Africans. Africans were known for socialization. We are known for working together. We are known for applying Nimbe, home systems. This is what we need to do as Africans. And why I believe so much in them is that when you come together as Africans and you do these Nimbe things, these home things, you do achieve three central strategic values: a value of unity, a value of peace, and a value of shared vision. When you have these three values in place, you don't sabotage each other after elections. You work towards the growth of the economy together. You participate and you share everything towards the economic growth of the country together. You pull in the same direction. You don't fight against each other. You don't, do the reverse of the vision. The vision is total support of everybody after election. So I really appeal to the leadership right now after the 23rd of March. Please come together and form an inclusive government so that we can achieve unity, peace, and shared vision, so that we can pull in the same direction.
And as we continue to remember the former liberation fighters or the liberation fighters of the liberation struggle, if the former Prime Minister Ian Douglas Smith was going to rise from the dead today and see the Zimbabwe that we have, what message would you take back to the people that perished, from 1960, 1970 to 1980, fighting to remove him from power? What message would you take to the sons and daughters of this country who perished during that time?
What Ian Douglas Smith probably would do, just to give two pictures: the picture of Salisbury and Harare. The Salisbury in 1980s and Salisbury and Harare today. Things are not the same. Yes, of course, one area where you would really appreciate that we did a good job is the land reform. We took our land, we're in charge of our land. That he did not want. That's one of the reasons why he was also fighting us. He didn't want us to take our land. But we took our land. Thank you. That is a good, to me, that was a great job. I don't have any dispute. But in terms of the economy is not inclusive of the black majority. Where I think went wrong was that when we were fighting for the war of liberation, we were saying we want to remove the systems of oppression. We are not fighting the skin. We can coexist with the whites. But the systems of oppression must be changed. However, this was forgotten because people had got into power and inherited the same oppressive systems which were used by the colonial masters. And this is an era of the entire African continent, from Cape to Cairo. When we took over the rulership of Africa, we did not realize that we inherited an oppressive system that was used by the whites to oppress the blacks. So what then eventually happened was that the blacks took over the rulership and started oppressing their own people. What was supposed to have happened was that after taking over power from the white, we're supposed to redesign the systems of governance and make sure that we would apply inclusive system that would cater for everyone in the African continent. Just like what was done by the Chinese. When the Chinese took over power from the British system, they discarded the entire British system and designed their own system, which catered for the Chinese. And if you look at the Chinese economy, it is inclusive of many Chinese, and the majority of the Chinese are living well. And the economy of China is also growing positively, leaps and bounds, which is contrary to Africa. So which therefore means Africans must sit down and say, how then do we have to, how do we design systems that are inclusive of the black majority? What are the systems that we can put in place? I've suggested an Afrocentric system of NIMBE. I've suggested an Afrocentric system of government of national unity as a way of making sure that we redesign a system to replace an oppressive system that was left by the white regime. So this is the way we went wrong as Africans. That's why today, if you look at the people that are enjoying in Zimbabwe, are still the same numbers which were enjoying during Ian Douglas Smith. 200,000 people, 300,000 people are sitting pretty in Zimbabwe, which is the same figure which Ian Douglas Smith was taking care of.
Senator, as we conclude, if the founding fathers of the opposition, the late Morgan Richard Tsvangirai and Gibson Sivanda, were to rise from the dead today and sit on the same table with Douglas Tokarase Mwonzora, what questions would they ask him?
They will beat him. They will not even ask a question. They will beat him thoroughly because Douglas Mwonzora agreed to be used by the system to destroy opposition in Zimbabwe. He agreed. And he did it very well. At the moment, the opposition that was left, that was executed by President Morgan Tsvangirai, Deputy President Gibson Sivanda, and National Chairperson Matongo, it's not there. It's not there at all. We remember when those guys were still alive, we had a vibrant opposition. You could feel it, in the bloodstream. You would feel it in every home. You would feel it that is an opposition. Even ZANU-PF knew that there was an opposition. They were kept on tours. They were not sleeping. At the moment, the opposition in Zimbabwe, it's like water in a shallow pool. There's nothing. ZANU-PF is not even losing a sleep, ZANU-PF is enjoying themselves because there's no strong opposition, which some of these boys have contributed to destroy. Now, if Morgan Tsvangirai would wake up today, accompanied by Gibson Sivanda and Isaac Matongo, they would thoroughly beat that young man for allowing the opposition to be destroyed.
Senator, your last message, I know you're a busy man, you want to go and campaign for your candidate, and obviously you have refused to endorse one. What is the message to Zimbabweans that are campaigning at the moment and on the voting day?
I want to call upon the opposition family members today to unite. The 2 weeks that are left are enough. There's still enough time for them to come together and make sure that they maximize the vote for maximum benefit. I want to warn them, the 9, 10 political parties that are in opposition, you are just there for the benefit of the ruling party. The opposition family is the one that's going to be divided. The ruling party family remains intact. Because in opposition, in politics, there are two families. Family of the opposition and the family of the ruling party. The ruling party is intact, is united, it's got its own alliance, partners, they are doing whatever they are doing. So they will maximize the vote. So the opposition political parties that are contesting for the presidency of this country are the ones that will share the opposition family. So let the blame be on that the beneficiary of this particular contestation is the ruling party. So I want to urge the opposition people to come together within these 2 weeks they are left and agree on how they should vote. And agree, maximize the vote. People don't realize one thing. ZANU-PF is not a ZANU-PF that you see. No. ZANU-PF is a broad alliance. ZANU-PF is beyond ZANU-PF party that you know at the Sheikh building. ZANU-PF is actually a broad alliance. There are so many groups or institutions that are brought together to form ZANU-PF. So it is a monster which is very huge in nature. But many people don't appreciate the magnitude of this institution or this monster called ZANU-PF. So opposition politics, they are so religious and innocent, and they believe they can actually put a big challenge against ZANU-PF if they operate individually. So my recommendation to the opposition political parties, let us have this sense of the broad alliance. Let us have this sense of unity. Let us be this sense of working together working together as opposition against the ruling party. At least if we work together, we can somehow match how ZANU-PF is organized. If you look at ZANU-PF right now, there is the ED for what, ED for what, ED for what, ED for what, ED for what. Those are alliance partners. There's church for what, Mapostора for ED, Mazion for ED, what. All those are partners. And ZANU-PF cannot be regarded as a political party. It's actually an alliance, a broad alliance aspect. And as long as opposition people don't appreciate that ZANU-PF's magnitude is that amount, would always fail and always cry foul. So the opposition right now, what I'm calling upon the opposition is to live with each other, like each other, come together and have a broad alliance. It may not be too late. It might be too late for 23 August, but it must be a realization that 2028 when it comes, please don't go to the election 2028 as an individual opposition political party. You'll be wasting people's time.
Thank you very much. There you heard it. That was Senator Morgan Komichi, a politician who has seen it all in the opposition. He is with us in the studio to share his views, and as usual, we have to let him go. We can also spend the whole day talking about the current state of affairs in the country. This is the program, The Candidate, the program where we invite politicians, their supporters, activists, and anyone who feels they have a message for the electorate in Zimbabwe. My name is Robert Tafimane. For now, bye-bye.